Hi again, welcome back. Let's continue with today's session on comments and documentation. Now, commenting program fragments and codes are very important because they help programmers like your future self and other programmers in your programming team understand the intention, right? The intention of the code. Now, doesn't the code tell us the intention? Yes and no, because it tends to be that the code, even for very good programmers, you can have the intention to, for example, draw a picture or recognize a face or calculate the average. Yet, when you write it out, there can be certain logical flaw, there can be certain poor design of the algorithm that may lead to bugs. Sometimes the bugs are very obvious, so that when you run it the first time, it is clear that uh, the program is faulty. There are times, and these are the more problematic ones, there are times when the bug is less clear, all right? And so when we try to run it, problems crop up and we have no idea uh, what is the right thing, because if the intention, the desired output is not stated, then we have a problem. We have no reference to compare with what is right and what is not right. So as such, there's a need to utilize Python's comments, all right, to mechanism to label the intentions very clearly so that it will be called a well-documented code, and it's more readable, it's clearer, and it's less susceptible to long-term maintenance issues. So comments in Python begin with the hex character. So long as you have a hex character, Python starts ignoring the rest of the line. The rest of the line. So in this case, for example, we write define new function, which is totally not understandable to Python. They are all for human to read, right? So comments are for human to read, and each hex character makes that line, the remainder of that line, a comment. Now, interestingly, hex character need not start at the first position. Okay, it can be uh, at the end of a statement, and we will use that kind of positioning of the hex character to document that particular statement line. What's the purpose, what's the use, what's the intention, right? So typically it's a function call. Typically it's a variable assignment. So when we set a equals to 1, we can put a hex initializing a. Obviously it's to 1, right? To this value called 1, because we can read there. But why are you doing that? What's your point of initializing a to 1? Oh, we are, starting a loop. That's why we are initializing it. So the comment, the intention for hex characters tends to be very local because it is very specific to that line, right? So, and we should typically we'll also put a hex statement, a comment in front of the program so that programmers like yourself, your future self, your teammates will be able to read quickly before trying to understand the code for that function. So we'll say, oh, here we are defining a new function. Now this is not very helpful, right? Because obviously when we see DEF, most programmers, including yourself, even beginning programmers, you can quickly pick up the fact that once you see DEF, you're defining a new function. So this kind of comments, not very helpful. Instead, you might want to say function A returns the sum of x and y, if that's what it tries to do. And indeed, it is trying to do that, right? So you can say uh, returns the sum of x and y. That will be useful. Okay, so that will be what we should do. Let's copy this and put it inside our spider. And then we start a new shell. Okay, so let's change this to uh, function returns the sum of x and y. So this is a nice comment. It expresses the intention that we want this function A to return the sum of x and y. Obviously, we kind of know that, but it could have been calculate, the complex number multiplication of x and y. Then it may not be simple arithmetic that we understand on a daily basis. So at least the intention has been expressed there, but we made a calculation error, right? Then we can at least know that, hey, compared to standard mathematical definition of complex number multiplication, that's wrong result. Okay, then we have a point of reference to check and debug. Okay, so now let's inspect. This is a comment, right? And it's a statement. We can also say, put a comment here and say, okay to have spaces between x and y, something like that. So just to say that, there can be a space here, there need not be a space there, it's okay. But then, again, this comment is valid. Spider didn't flag a red flag, but it is not useful. So what is a better comment? If it is actually quite clear what it says, then we don't have to do anything. However, right, using Python's mechanism, if our function can process different data types, that means x and y need not be numbers, x and y can be vectors. Oh, well, that's a very interesting hidden processing ability that just reading the Python code cannot tell us that intention. Then we can put something like x and y may be numpy vectors. Okay, something like that. Wow, that changes the whole perspective. It's no longer simplistic x plus y. Then when we read further and we realize, hey, is this correct or not? Then at least we have a basis of judgment as to whether it is reaching the intended goal or not. See that? Okay. Now, it is also frequent that we may not just want to comment very specifically and locally one statement, or that our documentation, our comment, will be limited to just one line. What if we want to have more descriptions, right? X may be integer, float, or numpy vector, something like that. And then we want to write neatly and in a very organized way. We don't want to continue. Y may also be on the same line as X, so we can always do that. Yeah, we can do this here. Yes, okay. We can do that, and that's very common, and this is a practice inherited since C, C++, Java days of programming. You will see a lot of such examples where the comments are multiple lined. Yeah. Unlike C, C++, and Java, which provide this block comment, Python has no way to support block comment. That means I will always have to hex space, type a line, next line, hex space, type a line. A bit like the clumsiness of Visual Basic or Basic in general. So on the flip side, Python provides this mechanism called docstring.